In the previous video, I presented the Celsius Fahrenheit table assignment in which the user enters a low Celsius temperature, a high Celsius temperature, and an incremental value, and can build a table showing all the Celsius temperatures between the low and the high and the equivalent Fahrenheit. We can change these values, and I can use increments, say, of 0.25, so every quarter degree, and so we'll use the double values in our loop to give us the equivalent Fahrenheit of, say, 22.75 degrees Celsius being the equivalent of 72.95. Well, let's take a look at how I built this. So here's my interface. We have a text box named txt low C, txt high C, and txt increment. A button named btn build, and then a list box that I named LST table, and I set the font to Courier New regular 11. I also have a label above with that same font, and we're going to use spacing to get our two tables, so we want to use a monospaced font like Courier New. Well, let's take a look at the code. So the code's very straightforward. We have our one event handler for our btn build _ click event. I'm going to have some double variables, C for Celsius, F for Fahrenheit, low, high, and INCR for increment. The low is going to equal whatever text the user entered into txt low C. We're going to parse that out as a double value. We'll do the same thing for the high C.text and for the increment, txt increment.text. I'm going to set C to low. I'm going to clear the list box. And a couple ways we could do this. We could use a for loop. Instead, I commented that out here. And I didn't fully write the for loop. I was just experimenting with being able to show somebody that you could use incremental values that are double for a for loop. Instead, I used a do while loop here. And so I have do F equals 1.8 times C plus 32. This can give us our equivalent Fahrenheit temperature for whatever the value of C is. I'm going to add an item to my list table, LST table, add an item of C.toString. I want to format it for 2 decimal places. I'm going to pad it to the left with 8 spaces. Then I'm going to concatenate to that another space, and then F.toString, also 2 decimal places, pad to the left, 8 spaces. I'm going to increment C by the incremental value, and as long as C is less than or equal to the high, we'll keep doing our loop. I'm going to go ahead and run this, and I'll come back and do the for loop as another demonstration. So again, if we just go from 0 to say 10, and we do a half degree, I get half degrees for my tables. So let me comment this one out. Now let's rewrite this loop. I'm going to get rid of my comment there. So I have a double value of I, and we're going to say I equals C. And as long as I is less than our high value, we'll increment I by the increment. Get rid of that comment there. And I'm just going to copy this line of code and put it in here. So again, I'm going to calculate the Fahrenheit temperature, but rather than using C, we're going to change this to I. And this will be I.toString. Let's try running that and see if this works. So I'll use the same values I did before, 1 and 10. We're going to go 0.5, and it builds the table just fine. So you can use either a for loop or a while loop. In a lot of cases, those are going to be interchangeable. Just have to think through the ramifications of how you're coding these. And in a while loop, make sure you're changing this counter so that C plus equals increment. If you just jumped into this video, you can see all the videos from the C# Xamarin Programming Cohort playlist by clicking on the image in the lower right. And if you'd like to be alerted to future videos that I create, you can click my picture up in the top right and subscribe to the channel.